Recently, a Spanish human rights group called Safeguard Defenders revealed that China was operating overseas police stations in major cities like New York. This report proved that there are over 100 Chinese overseas police stations operating in 53 countries across 5 continents. These stations have been established by China-based public security bureaus. In fact, an interesting fact brought out by the report is that China's pilot program for these overseas law enforcement agencies was run by the public security bureaus of Fuzhou and Qingtian counties of coastal Fujian and Zhejiang provinces, respectively. These provinces had established 54 overseas police service centers across 5 continents. 25 cities in 21 countries by June 2021. Where are these police stations? In the United States, 1 such service center in New York City. In Canada, 3 were established in Toronto. In South America, there was 1 each in Quito and Guayaquil, Ecuador, Rio de Janeiro and Sao Paulo, Brazil, Buenos Aires, Argentina, and Vina del Mar, Chile. Most of the Chinese overseas police stations were located in Europe, including 9 in Spain, the most of any country on the list, 3 in Madrid, 3 in Barcelona, 2 in Valencia and 1 in Santiago de Compostela. Italy was hosting the second most stations in Europe with 4, Rome, Milan, Florence and Prato. In France, 3 service centers were operating out of Paris. Portugal also hosted 1 each in Porto, Lisbon and Madeira. In United Kingdom, the report found 2 in London and 1 in Glasgow. The Netherlands was hosting 2 such centers in Amsterdam and Rotterdam, respectively, while the Czech Republic had 2 in Prague. Budapest, Hungary, also had 2, 1 for each of the Fuzhou and Qingtian police bureaus, a common phenomenon across Europe. Dublin, Ireland, Bratislava, Slovakia, Frankfurt, Germany, Athens, Greece, Stockholm, Sweden, Vienna, Austria, Odessa, Ukraine, and Belgrade, Serbia, all had 1 Chinese police station. In Africa, Benin City, Nigeria, Maseru, Lesotho, and Dar es Salaam, Tanzania, each hosted 1. In Asia, at least 1 police center was operating out of Mongolia, Uzbekistan, Brunei, Japan, and Cambodia. And these are just the ones that have been identified till now. But why does China want to have law enforcement agencies in other countries? China claims that these overseas police stations are intended to offer administrative services to overseas Chinese and combat cross-border fraud. However, reports suggest that there may be ulterior motives, such as intelligence gathering, safeguarding belt and road infrastructure projects, and exerting cultural and racial influence on overseas Chinese diaspora. However, the setup of overseas police stations is probably a response to the growing negative sentiments against Chinese Communist Party. The recent years in China are amass with various cases of human rights violations by the Communist Party government. CCP's online censorship has become more inescapable, and any criticism, especially around high-profile events and anniversaries, faces immediate counter by government agencies. High-profile dissidents, be it Alibaba's Jack Ma, political scientist and retired professor of the CCP Central Party School Kai Xia, actress Fan Bingbing, author Fang Fang and so many more, have been censored and had their movements restricted. Journalists and human rights workers, both foreign-based and those from within China, have been exposed to repeated government interference in their coverage of events, especially the events that concern CCP and Xi Jinping's policies. Authorities have intensified their efforts to prevent criticism of Xi Jinping's zero-COVID lockdown measures on social media, including appeals for help by those under lockdown and allegations of human rights violations in quarantine facilities. Pro-democracy protests by various student organizations in Hong Kong, demands by ethnic minorities for freedom of speech and freedom to practice their culture and traditions. All these issues and many more have forced families to migrate to other nations in search of basic human rights. And this migration is exactly why CCP needs their illegal overseas police station. China's motive is to target and extend their surveillance on political dissidents, and also on the migrated ethnic minorities like Tibetans, Uyghur Muslims, Falun Gong practitioners and others. CCP aims to ensure that these dissenters are persuaded to return home. However, it is very concerning that any pretext of due process or the consideration of suspects' innocence until proven guilty is abandoned in the operations of the overseas police stations. The modus operandi of these stations is anything but legal. Targeting suspects' children and relatives in China as guilty by association or as collateral damage, and using threats and intimidation to target suspects abroad, is a direct result of these agencies. Also, these operations not only violate the rights and freedoms of Chinese citizens, they also violate the international rule of law, and often violate the territorial integrity of third countries. Outcome of the Safeguards report: most European nations seem to have woken up. Most nations now, but some developing countries, including Brazil, Argentina, Ecuador, Hungary, and Nigeria, have chosen to remain silent, possibly due to Chinese economic and political influence. China too has upped the ante. The Standing Committee of the National People's Congress, China's top legislative body, has proposed instituting a foreign states immunity law. This law would allow foreign governments to be sued in Chinese courts. It is believed that if China's overseas police stations are brought under host vigilance, Beijing may use the foreign states immunity law to pressure the country. The outcome of the issue remains to be seen, but don't forget to share your views on overseas law enforcement agencies and other possible repercussions that the developing nations may face by China's overseas police stations.
If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing to our channel and clicking the bell icon to receive notifications about our latest videos.